So it's been roughly 4 weeks since I sold my Mavic 2 Pro in favor of the Air 2S. So do I regret it? Not really, but I'm going to give you more of an explanation. So let's get started. What's good, everybody? Ken here. You're watching Original Dobo, and in this video I want to talk about why I don't regret selling my Mavic 2 Pro. I think that there's probably a lot of people that were on the fence like myself, but probably just were unsure of whether or not it was a good decision to sell the Pro or keep it. And here are my main reasons for selling the Mavic 2 Pro in favor of the Air 2S. Firstly, the batteries. I was constantly battling with Mavic 2 Pro batteries where they were swelling or just failing on me. Now I am in Florida, so it is a little bit more of a hotter and extreme environment than some should have to deal with. But for me, I was going through multiple batteries per year. This past year, I went through 7 batteries, and that's a lot. Now, context, I do fly every single day because I do real estate photography and I also do video work professionally for clients. So I'm usually always up in the air. So my batteries are going to get used more often than others. Also, I probably didn't maintain some of the batteries the best I could, such as leaving them in a hot car when I'm in between shoots. Those are all things that will play, a role in the battery's early demise. So some of that is on me. With that being said, I've had my Mavic Air 2, which uses the same batteries as the Air 2S, and I've had no issues with the batteries. They've functioned flawlessly throughout the entire year. And for the better half of the past 5 months, I was using my Air 2 primarily for a lot of my real estate shoots. So I feel pretty confident in the way the batteries perform. I don't have any swelling, no weird issues. All the batteries still show good health, which is important, over a long term and reducing the cost of my operation. So batteries were one of the biggest reasons. Reason number 2 was the size of the Mavic 2 Pro. Now, some of you may say, well, the Mavic 2 Pro is already pretty small. And yeah, it is a pretty compact drone. But when you are traveling and you are trying to keep everything as light and small as possible, it's really important to maximize the space that you have allotted to you. And unfortunately, the Mavic 2 Pro took up quite a bit of space in my bag, and it didn't give me as many options as the Air 2S or even the Air 2 offers. This I can put in a side compartment of my bag and actually have it on the outside, not physically in my bag, which gives me room for a camera or lens, or even more of my FPV gear. Unfortunately, since I started flying FPV, that gear tends to dominate my bags for space. It's inevitable because there's just so much that you have to bring. So space was a big contributing factor why I switched to the Air 2S over the Pro. Alrighty, let's talk about the image quality because I want to get that out of the way straight out of the gate without making too many comparisons to the Mavic 2 Pro. Overall, the image quality to me is more than enough for what I need. It's more than enough. I don't feel like I'm losing anything with the Air 2S. Now, in low light situations, the Mavic 2 Pro still seemed like it squeaked out ahead just ever so slightly, but I never found myself really flying at night very often. And when I do, it doesn't take much to get the Air 2S footage to look as good as the Mavic 2 Pro. You just have to know what you're doing. See, the reality is it's never about the hardware that you're using. It's the person behind the camera and it's the person in the editing software that's going to deliver that final look that you see. I think that's a big problem that a lot of people have when they start thinking about gear. They want to buy gear because they feel like that gear is going to make their image better. But the reality is, if you just take the fucking time to learn how to color grade, take the fucking time how to, expose properly in the camera, you're going to be able to get a great image almost every single time, no matter what camera you shoot on. Even if you shot on a potato, I'm pretty sure if you expose properly, you're gonna get a great image. So for me, traveling this past month to Colorado, seeing the images that I was able to get out of this, knowing what I got out of the previous trip with my drone, made me really happy about my decision. And honestly, I think the video and photos just do wonders. For real estate, this thing is an absolute beast. It gives me really clear, sharp images and I have no complaints. Not one single client has complained. And matter of fact, even when I use my Air 2, nobody's ever said anything. And again, the images are always edited to taste, so I don't have any complaints. And I think, again, for real estate, videography, photography, dynamic range, sharpness is perfect. Okay, let's get the elephant out of the room. And most of the people are going to come back with the fact that there is no adjustable aperture on the Air 2S. You got to get over it. Again, it's all about leveraging the things you have available to you. And we have ND filters, and ND filters have been available to us for a really long time. The reality is it doesn't take that long to sort of meter the light around you and figure out which ND filter is necessary to reduce the light coming into the sensor. So for me, I've been using the stock ND filters that DJI shipped, and they have worked more than adequately for what I need. Now, would I like some better glass on the ND filters? Absolutely. And I'm holding out for some, Polar Pro or Freewell filters, whichever hits my hands first is what I'll end up using going forward. But I realized in the course of the year's time, I really never took advantage of that adjustable aperture. Now, where that adjustable aperture really comes into play is if I'm filming a moving object and I'm wanting to maybe capture a photo of something moving, but I want to get that motion blur, but keep my, subject in focus. That's where an aperture to me comes in handy. An aperture also comes in handy if I'm doing some photographs of waterfalls or something like that, or even that top-down shot of a beach with waves crashing. But I never really find myself taking those types of photos. My types of photos are typically auto-bracketed exposures where the shutter is king and my house is in focus. Even at f2.8, it's perfectly fine. The reality is, on a 1-inch sensor, an aperture adjustment isn't going to really do a whole hell of a lot, especially when it's not a mechanical shutter, or I should say, I guess it's a mechanical shutter, a global shutter, sort of like what we have on the Phantom 4 Pro. That is a whole different animal. When we have a global shutter, I don't think the adjustable aperture is quite as important. Now, people will argue with me, but for me, guess what? I'm still getting paid the fucking same whether my aperture moves or doesn't. I'm still gonna make the same amount of money. I just know how to leverage my gear, and I honestly suggest, instead of bitching about something and saying that you're gonna continue to wait for the Mavic 3, to jump on something now, because while you're waiting, I'm taking your business.
So thank you for waiting.
All right, let's talk about OcuSync 3, because this is a huge reason why I ended up switching. The range and overall smoothness back to the controller, back to my video feed on my phone, has been so smooth, it's butter. I mean, when I was in Colorado, we were pushing it out some insane distances at some insane heights, behind obstacles. I didn't have any fear that I was going to lose connection, and I didn't lose connection at all. I didn't even have a single stutter, which gave me a hell of a lot of confidence when flying, that each and every time I took off, that drone was always going to come back to me, or always going to allow me to control it, whether I was behind an object or not, which is incredible, which is absolutely incredible. Now, with that being said, I don't use the smart controller on the Air 2S because I think the smart controller is a piece of shit, and I think it's outdated tech, and I just don't want to support DJI's mission to keep this piece of shit MediaTek processor running in the smart controller. I don't care about screen brightness as much as I used to. Phones have gotten so good with screen brightness that it just really doesn't matter to me. Again, these are my reasons. I don't give a fuck about your reasons. These are my reasons, and maybe you have similar reasons that you can relate to, but I don't care. Like, that's, to me, I'm not going to use the smart controller, so there's that. But the range on OcuSync 3 has been utterly impressive, and for the most part, it's been really, truly flawless. Alrighty, so those are my biggest reasons why I don't regret selling my Mavic 2 Pro. The Mavic 2 Pro's been out for almost 3 years now, and it's showing its age, especially if you had one from the very beginning like myself. Those batteries are going to take a beating. They're going to become unreliable. I see people that are flying the Mavic 2 Pro where they zip tie over their batteries because they are in fear that the battery will pop out during flight. Those are things that I don't have to contend with the Air 2S. Will this be my daily driver forever? Probably not, because as a drone reviewer, I have a luxury of testing and trying out new products, if I'm just being honest. So there's always something else that will end up tickling my fancy. It's like being in an open relationship. I have the choice to date whatever drone I want. And if I want to take this one home tonight, I will. That was a really terrible analogy. I am just, God, if you can relate to that, God bless you anyways. All right, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Stay original.